I work as a staff member at a Walmart in Barstow, California, and that night I was scheduled for the night shift. The shift was always quiet, with only a few employees assigned to restock shelves and receive new shipments. The store was fairly silent, with only the occasional automated announcement and the distant footsteps of my coworkers breaking the stillness. I was used to the night shift routine, but something felt off that night. When I arrived for my shift, I noticed someone I had never seen before standing near the front of the store. He was wearing a black hoodie with the hood pulled up, partially obscuring his face. He stood motionless, browsing the candy shelves near the checkout area. I ignored him and headed straight to the staff room to grab my name tag and prepare for my shift. My first task was to check the toy section at the far end of the store. As I walked through the nearly empty aisles, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around, but no one was there. I assumed it was just a coworker moving around in another section, so I kept walking. About an hour into my shift, I went to the staff bathroom to splash some water on my face. As I entered, the lights flickered briefly before stabilizing, creating an unsettling atmosphere. When I stood in front of the sink, I saw a reflection in the mirror, a man standing behind me right at the entrance. Startled, I spun around, but no one was there. I took a deep breath, convincing myself it was just my tired mind playing tricks on me. However, when I looked back at the mirror, I noticed something even more disturbing. One of the stall doors behind me was slightly open, even though I was sure they had all been closed earlier. I decided not to dwell on it and left the bathroom. When I returned to the toy section to continue working, I received a notification on my phone. It was from Snapchat. "Follow me to the bathroom." I frowned, confused. I didn't recognize the username that had sent the message. I replied, "Who is this?" A moment later, another message came through. "You should have entered the stall earlier." My heart started to race. I felt uneasy and immediately blocked the account, but just minutes later, I received a new friend request from a different account, this one with a much more disturbing username. "Why did you block me?" Something was definitely wrong. I glanced around, ensuring that no one was lurking nearby. Walmart was a large store, and if someone was hiding between the shelves, they wouldn't be easy to spot. I tried to shake off the discomfort and continued working, but then I heard something fall at the end of the aisle. When I approached the source of the noise, I saw a large doll lying on the floor. What made my skin crawl was the way it was positioned, facing directly toward me, as if someone had deliberately placed it like that. As I reached down to pick it up and return it to its shelf, my phone vibrated again. This time, the message read, "I can see you now." I looked up, scanning the aisles around me. There was no one in sight. I hurried to the staff room to inform my supervisor about the strange occurrences, but when I stepped inside, the room was empty. No one was there, even though I was sure one of my coworkers should have been around. As I turned to leave, I heard something. Breathing. Slowly, I turned back around, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Someone was standing in the corner of the room, partially hidden in the dim light. He was wearing the same black hoodie as the man I had seen earlier, but this time, he wasn't just standing there. He was eating something, a sandwich, messy and unappetizing. When he noticed me staring, he stopped chewing and slowly raised his hand, waving his fingers, gesturing for me to come closer. I bolted out of the room and ran toward the front cashier area, hoping to find another coworker or even a customer, but when I got there, the registers were empty. The store felt even quieter than before. My phone buzzed again. I didn't want to look, but curiosity won over my fear. I opened the message. "Why are you running?" I didn't reply. I looked outside through the glass doors of the Walmart, hoping to see someone in the parking lot, but it was empty. Only one other car was there, likely belonging to one of my coworkers. I felt increasingly unsafe. Finally, I used the store's internal phone system to call security, reporting that someone suspicious might have entered the staff area. They assured me they would arrive soon. I waited at the cashier area, staying alert. 5 minutes passed, then 10. There was no sign of security. Suddenly, a new notification sounded, but this time it wasn't from Snapchat. It was from the store's security system. Emergency exit door opened. I sprinted to the security control room to check the surveillance footage. When I arrived, I saw the monitor displaying the black hooded man walking out through the back exit of Walmart. But just before he disappeared into the darkness, he stopped. He turned toward the camera and smiled. I never saw him again after that night. The police arrived later, but they found no one around the store, only a set of footprints leading to an empty lot behind Walmart. But to this day, one question still haunts me. What would have happened if I had followed him into the bathroom stall? When I was in school, I worked as a food delivery driver for a popular fast food restaurant in my city. The night shift wasn't many people's favorite, but I took it because it paid better. Besides, I was used to driving alone at night. That night, around 11:30 p.m., I received my last order before heading home. The address was on the outskirts of town, in an area I wasn't too familiar with. But the GPS showed a clear route, so I didn't think much of it. I picked up the order, entered the address into the GPS, and started driving. The roads were pretty empty, with only a few cars passing by. As I drove further, the street lights became sparse and houses grew farther apart. A few minutes later, I realized I was now on a road with almost no lighting at all. I double-checked the GPS, just one more minute until my destination. But when I reached the pinpointed location, all I saw was an empty road surrounded by a small forest. No houses, no signs of life. I pulled over and double-checked the address in the app. Since I couldn't find a house, I decided to call the customer. The phone rang for a while before a man finally answered. "Hello, I'm at the address you provided, but I don't see any house here," I said. The man was silent for a moment before finally speaking in a quiet voice. "Oh, sorry, my house is down a small path to the right. Can you come in a little?" I glanced to the right and saw a narrow dirt path leading into an even darker area. My gut immediately told me something was off. "Sorry, sir, but I can only deliver to the main address," I replied. The man was silent for a few seconds before saying, "All right, I'll come to you." I waited in the car, constantly checking my rearview mirror. The road remained empty. Minutes passed, but the man never appeared. A growing unease settled in my chest. Just as I was about to cancel the order and leave, I noticed something in my rearview mirror. Someone emerged from the dark side of the road, slowly walking toward my car. A chill ran down my spine. If he was the customer, why did it take him so long to come out? And why was he walking so slowly? As he got closer, I noticed something. His hands were empty. He wasn't carrying a wallet or anything. My instinct screamed at me. I rolled down the window just slightly, enough to speak. "Your order, sir," I said, ready to leave at any second. The man stopped a few steps from my car and smiled. "Your tire's okay, right?" His question sent a shiver down my spine. I immediately looked at my dashboard, checking the tire pressure indicator. And at that exact moment, I felt my car tilt slightly to one side. My breath caught in my throat. I quickly glanced at my side mirror and saw it. My right rear tire looked lower than before. My heart pounded. I rolled up my window and locked the doors. The man was still standing there, staring at me. Without hesitation, I slammed my foot on the gas and sped off, even though I could feel the car wobble slightly due to the damaged tire. I didn't care. I just wanted to get out of there. When I finally reached a well-lit area, I pulled over and got out to check my tire. As expected, the right rear tire was nearly flat. I grabbed a flashlight and took a closer look, and that's when I saw it. A small, sharp object was lodged in it, as if it had been deliberately placed to cause a slow leak. I immediately called the police in my restaurant to report the incident. But when the police went to check the given address, they found no house there. I still don't know what that man's true intentions were, but one thing is certain. If I had stepped out of my car that night, the story could have ended very differently. Working the night shift at the supermarket was boring, but at least it was quiet. I had been working there for almost a year, and while the storage room sometimes felt a little creepy, I had never experienced anything truly strange until that night. The supermarket's storage room was spacious, filled with tall shelves packed with stock. There were stacks of empty cardboard boxes in the corner, a large trash bin in the back, and a rear door that led directly to the loading dock. The place was usually silent, except for the constant hum of the cooling units and the occasional scurrying sound of rats moving through the boxes. We were used to seeing homeless people occasionally coming to the back of the building, searching through the trash for food or seeking shelter from the rain. Most of them didn't bother anyone. They would just pass through or sit in the corner until they had enough. But there was one man who was different, an old man with ragged clothes, messy hair, and wild eyes. No one knew his name, but nearly every employee was familiar with him. He often wandered around the back of the building, talking to himself, sometimes shouting for no reason. Security had tried to chase him away a few times, but he always came back. There were rumors among the employees that he had mental health issues and had once lived in the area before ending up on the streets. I didn't care much. As long as he didn't come inside, it wasn't my problem. That night I was working alone in the storage room, organizing a new shipment of bottled drinks. My two co-workers on the night shift were out front near the registers. I never minded being alone in the storage room until I heard the sound. At first, I thought it was just a box falling over. A soft scraping noise, then something shifting in the corner of the room. I stopped what I was doing and listened closely. Then I heard breathing. It wasn't mine. I slowly turned around, scanning the dimly lit storage room. The lighting here wasn't great, just enough to see where you were going and read the product labels. I directed my gaze toward the pile of boxes in the corner where the noise had come from, and there he was. The homeless man stood between the boxes, his body partially hidden in the shadows. His breathing was heavy and ragged, like he had just run a long distance. His eyes were wide open, staring straight at me, but there was something off, like he wasn't really looking at me, but through me. I took a step back. "What are you doing here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, even though my body was starting to tense up. He didn't answer. He just stood there, his mouth moving as if he were mumbling something. Then suddenly, he spoke in a raspy whisper. "They said this place was empty. This place is mine. This is where I sleep." I swallowed hard. "You can't be here. This isn't a place to stay." The man started shaking his head frantically, his hands clutched at his tangled hair, his eyes darting around. I could feel the tension in the air. Then, without warning, he screamed. A high-pitched, ear-piercing shriek that echoed through the storage room, making my heart almost jump out of my chest. I stumbled backward as the man suddenly lunged toward me with shocking speed. I spun around and ran for the exit. I could hear his footsteps behind me getting closer. I didn't dare look back. I just focused on the metal door ahead. My hand reached out, gripping the door handle with all my strength. The door swung open, and I nearly fell as I stumbled out. I rushed toward the checkout area where my two coworkers were standing. "There's someone in the storage room," I gasped, still catching my breath. They looked at me in confusion before one of them, Mike, quickly called security. Two security guards immediately headed toward the storage room. I followed behind, my heart still racing. When we got there, everything was quiet again. There was no sign of the man. We searched every corner, but all we found were a few fallen boxes and some leftover food in the corner. It seemed like he had been staying there for a few days without anyone noticing. After searching further, one of the guards found the back door slightly open. He must have escaped through there the moment I ran out. That night, our manager ordered all access points to the storage room to be secured. We were also told to always work in pairs during night shifts, at least until things felt safer. But even though we locked the doors, I still saw him. Sometimes when I took the trash out through the back door, I would spot him in the distance, sitting near the dumpster, talking to himself, staring at the sky with empty eyes. I just hoped he wouldn't try to come inside again.